All right, we did one question for 2. It was very similar to question 1 and 2. Now I'm going to move on to something a little bit more different. Here's a kind of an overview of the next 3 problems. So if you want to pause, write down the 3 problems. We're going to be going over those in just a second. So moving on to question number 4. You'll notice that this one's a little different. Your y's or your x's, neither one of them's the same number. So you can't say that the 7 and the 5 are the same or the 4 and the 2 are the same. The goal now is to change either the 2 into the 4 or the 5 into the 7. So which would be easier? Changing what the reason you figure out which one to change is you look at the x's and you say, okay, which one's the, and this one's quote unquote smaller number. Would it be easier to turn a 5 into a 7, or would it be easier to turn a 2 into a 4? Well, obviously you should say it's 2 to 4. So we're going to be changing this 2 into a 4. So how do you change a 2 into a 4? Well, most people would say, oh, you just add 2. No, you never ever add. If you're going to change a number, you multiply. So multiply this by 2, which you do one, you got to do the other. So multiply that by 2, and then, of course, multiply this by 2. Now, in the earlier 3 problems, you've probably recognized or realized, hopefully by now, that you're trying to figure out what you can change to the opposite. What can you make negative, or what can you make positive? In this case, this wouldn't change it to a negative. It would just be 2 times 2, which is 4, since it's already positive. That would be 4 also. So this is going to have to be changed by negative 2 to make it negative. Okay? So everything's times negative 2. So negative 5 times negative 2 gives you 10. So 10x. Here you have 2 times 2, which is 4. But since it's negative, it gives you negative 4. And then you have 17 times 2, which gives you 34. But since it was a negative times a positive, gives you your negative. Now, we're going to ignore the middle section. You may be asking yourself, well, what does that do? Think back to when you had to add fractions. Eventually, you got to where you had to add fractions that had different denominators, different bottom numbers, and you had to change the bottom number to make it work. Well, that's what you're doing here. You're just changing this 2 to look different. Okay, this problem's still the exact same. It's going to give you the exact same outcome. But you're changing this to get the opposite of that, just like you'd change fractions, denominators, so that way you can add them. You're changing this just so you can technically make them cancel. Okay? Now, looking at the top and the bottom, remember you change the middle, so you're kind of ignoring that, pretend it's not there for a second. So now we have negative 7x and 10x gives you 3x, and then the 4's cancel, and then you have 13 and negative 34, so 13 and negative 34. A lot of people end up making the mistake of adding the 2, so it gives you 47. Don't do that, okay? It's 13 minus 34, or you could say 13 plus negative 34, which ends up giving you a negative 21, okay? Divided by 3, divide by 3 to get rid of the 3 from the x, and then you get x is negative 7. Okay? It's negative divided by positive is a negative, and then, of course, 21 divided by 3 is 7. All right, so there's the first part of your answer. Negative 7. A little blurry. And then now, plug that back into your original. So we're going to plug that back into the one we didn't change. So negative 7 from here. Negative 7 times negative 7 plus 4y equals 13. Okay, so there's your top problem. The only thing you did was change the x to what you already found was negative 7. So negative times a negative is a positive, so it gives you 49. Kind of kind of small, I'm running out of room. 4y equals 13. Subtract your 49. Subtract your 49. You get 4y equals, and this is a, like we did just a second ago, 13 and negative 34. Now we're doing the same thing, 13 and negative 49. And so make sure you don't add those. Don't get 50 or 62. Don't do that. You end up getting, since the 49 is technically quote unquote bigger, negative, and then 36. Okay. All right, now divide by 4. Divide by 4. And you're getting y is equal to negative divided by positive is a negative, and then 36 divided by 4 is 9. So negative 7, negative 9. All right, looking over here, have the same type of problem. Is it easier to turn a 4 into a 5 or a 5 into a 10? So 5 into 10, remember these don't matter. You're only worried about the variables. So looking here, the 4 and the 5, that's called coefficients. Anything in front of a variable is coefficient. So does the coefficient of negative 4 turn into a 5 easily? No. Does the coefficient of 5 turn into a 10 easily? Yes. Just multiply it by 2. Now, the beautiful part about this question is that the negatives on this one, the positives on this one, so they're already opposite. All you had to do is change the 5 into a 10. Now remember, multiply this by 2, you got to multiply everything by 2 on the top. So we're going to I don't know why I put the line there. Just ignore it for a second. I'm going to rewrite it down here. Just rewriting. So you're going to get negative 8x, negative 10y, and a whopping 4. All right. So old school line subtract. Here's my line, so ignore that one. So we have 5 and negative 8 gives you negative 3. And then we have, those will cancel. And then we have 20 and 4, which makes 24. Now divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. And we get x is negative 8. Okay? And then right over here. So x is negative 8. Remember, x comes first. All right, now plug it back in. Which one do you want to plug it into? The one we didn't change. So we changed this one to this one. We didn't change this one, so that's one we're going to use. So 5x, and x is negative 8 plus 10y equals 20. All right, almost wrote down the 4. Now, 5 times 8 is 40. And then positive times a negative is a negative plus 10y equals 20. All right, you're going to add your 40. Why am I adding my 40 instead of subtracting it? Because there's a minus sign in front of it, okay? A negative sign. So negative and a positive, those will cancel. But over here, it's just going to end up making it a bigger number, so which is fine. So we got our 10y again equals 60. All right, so now divide by 10 to get rid of the 10, and then 60 divided by 10, hopefully all we know that is 6. All right, and then so you get 8, negative 6. Now, if you ever try to figure it back out, you can remember you can always plug these back in. So plug it in here. 5 times negative 8 is negative 40. 10 times 6 is 60. Negative 40 plus 60 is 20. Okay, so if you ever don't know what it is, you can always plug it back into the problem. Plug it in here. 4 times 8, remember negative times a negative is a positive. So you got 4 times 8. We got 32 there. And then we have negative 5 and then 6. So we got negative 5 and 5 times, hang on, I got low power on my phone. We got 5 times 6, which is 30, and it's a negative 30. So we're going to do 32 minus 30, and that equals 2. Okay, so you plug it into both. If it works for both, then you got to make sure you made sure you got the right answer. All right, and our last problem, and this is one of the ones that was in the 90% of your IXL. And so we have a regular x. We hadn't had this problem yet, where we just have a variable by itself, no coefficient. Well, I say no coefficient. It's 1, but we don't have to write it. Is it easier to turn this x into a negative 5? Is this 4 to a 10? Which one's easier? So obviously turning this into a 5 is easier. It's going to give you some big numbers, but that's fine. So multiply this by 5. What you do to one, you got to do the others. So multiply everything by 5. Okay? Now we're going to rewrite the top problem down here. We're going to leave that second one alone. So 5 times x is 5x. Okay, remember this is a 1 in front, so 5 times 1 is 5. And then you have minus 5 times 4, 20. And then 9 times 5, 45. And don't forget the negative 9 times 5 is negative 45. All right, now we got our new problem. So, old school add and subtract. 5 and 5, they cancel. That's what we want. Negative 10 and negative 20 gives you negative 30. And then 15 and negative 45, add those together, gives you negative 30 as well. So hopefully we know that dividing by negative 30, anything divided by itself gives you 1. And so our y will be 1. Easy enough. Now, which one did we not change? Didn't change the middle one, so that's the one we're going to use. So negative 5x, remember we're looking for the x, we found the y, we're looking for the x now, minus 10 times 1, because it's 10y, and y is 1, equals 15. So anything times 1 is that anything, so we have negative 5x minus 10 equals 15. Going to be adding 10. Why am I at, double zero, I don't know why I did that. Why am I adding 10? Because it's a minus 10. And then add 10. So what I do to one side, I got to do to the other. And then you have negative 5x equals 25. So what we're going to do here, divide by negative 5. Divide by negative 5. And then positive divided by negative is a negative. And then 25 divided by 5 is 5. So x is negative 5.